What's going on, guys? It's Cassius here on the Second Floor Podcast. Today's guest is Alex Eskandarkhah. He is the co-creator and host of the Gifted Gab podcast. Born and raised in Toronto, he spent most of his time in Edmonton, initially playing basketball at the university level, and left, then returned with his family, prompting them to start a family business here in North Edmonton called Kashan Persian Rugs. His experience working alongside his brother and pulling entrepreneurial experience from his father led him to learn the ins and outs of operations, marketing, and most importantly, community. Alex is also the co-founder of the Collective for Black Iranians, an international nonprofit focused on public education, advocacy, and amplification of stories centered around Afro Iranians and Black Iranians within the diaspora, as well as Iran. Alex refers to his work as creative capitalism mixed with conscious capitalism, and continues to find new ways to disrupt through art. We had a fantastic conversation about leadership, what it takes to run your own business, and mentality of what it takes to build something out of nothing. So without further ado, guys, let's dive in.
A lot of opportunity here, coming from a city where people have multiple hustles. I watched my mom, she had a part-time job, but she also had a hustle on the side. People I grew up with had hustles on the side. And, my dad is a serial entrepreneur. When he was in Calgary, he had been working out here in Alberta for a bit, but he did have the desire to go back into the business world. And I think I tried to run from that side of me. I think now it's the word entrepreneur is such a buzzword. And me, when I was playing basketball, you think that you're going to just play basketball, right? I just wanted to get my education, get a job and just be sustainable. But I think, there was some other plans for me and being back and forth, my dad had expressed the interest in going back into business. And I said, why not Edmonton? Calgary was cool, but I never really felt at home in Calgary. It was either Toronto or Edmonton. So I spent some time in Edmonton playing basketball there. And I just saw a booming metropolis, something on the come up. It was very entrepreneur friendly, creator friendly, and I had been working after my basketball stint. I'd been working with the city of Calgary for a bit, and my dad wanted to start it up. Me and my brother said, we're in. It was the summertime, and while I had this office job working with the city, which in my field, I studied sociology, minored in kin. So what I was doing with the city was right in my alley. And we said, okay, let's start up the store, Persian Rugs. And for 6 months, Monday to Friday, I'd be working at the office. Friday night, I would drive up to Edmonton, help my pops, help my brother out with the store, with the startup and stuff. And that was the thing for a good 6 months, At that point, I was kind of learning a lot from the business world, being right up in it. Starting out, I was never like, oh, I want to sell rugs. It's not something that really fascinates me. But it was a good opportunity for me to learn the business world from like being right up in it and helping to build something, right? In September of that year, I know it's all over the place, but I think 6 months in, I'd left my job with the city and said, I'm gonna do this, relocate back to Edmonton, and help out with this thing full time, kind of. And at that point, I still wasn't finished school, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this and finish my schooling, and then one thing at a time. When I finish my schooling thing, then I can think about the next steps. Because I was playing basketball when I started school, I wanted to make sure that, when I step away from the game, I had taken something from it, and for me that was education. Growing up in Toronto, there was too many instances where guys would go and play at a high level, go play somewhere outside of the city, but come back empty-handed. And I made a promise to myself, I didn't want to be one of those guys. Like regardless of the circumstances, you came in here, you're a student athlete, you got to walk out with something, especially if you're dedicating all these years to hooping. So while working in the store with my pops, I was able to finish my degree at a distance, and I had started to ask that question for myself, what do I really want to do? Like the store is cool and it's business, it's a family thing, but there's got to be more too, and at the time I was still, I was doing the modeling thing, and that's fun too, but it's a very superficial business. Obviously, you get picked based on what you look like.
Yeah. So
I felt a little bit of a void in terms of, being able to put myself out there, my beliefs, my ideologies, the things I go by. So I connected with my man Andre. I had known him prior to being in Edmonton, but our teams had scrimmaged against each other, and we reconnected. Naturally, when you see somebody from your city in another city, you gravitate towards that, and you hang out, and so the question for me was, even though I had stepped away from basketball, I was like, what else do I want to do with my life? And he was still playing, but he was also asking himself that question. So out of that, we started the Gifted Gab. We were just willing to do it for free, for fun, for the fun of it. But it became it got real quickly, and we just chipped away at it slowly, and it was for us a way to put ourselves out there, ask the questions, answer questions that we had, not just about society and pop culture and things that are going on, but also about ourselves. I act like I have all the answers, but I'm really a student of everything. I'm always trying to soak in things. I'm always taking notes from people, and it became this baby. The Gifted Gab was like me and Andre's baby, and we just wanted to nurture it while having fun with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what kind of led me to all the other projects and stuff that I've been doing. So I know I look like I've always got a lot of things going on, but I just find ways to make it work, and it challenged me to really manage my time, and learn to say no to some things that weren't for me, mm-hmm. because I've always been willing to just try anything and figure it out on the way, so it's been quite the journey. It feels like I've been doing it forever. It's only really been just over a year. Yeah. Maybe it's because it's been a really long year, but yeah. But and I just try to take it one day at a time. But I'm always thankful that all the decisions I made. Saying I wanted to play basketball, saying I wanted to go to Edmonton, saying I finally wanted to leave Toronto. Going to Iran and playing basketball there, shooting my shot over there. All those things, created this totality of where I'm at right now. You at the end of the day, you're the sum of your decisions and your experiences. And at 27 years old, I look back and I'm like, damn, I've lived one hell of a life so far. Yeah. So what else is next, right? Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. I can relate to that, especially with a lot of people think that I do a lot of things, whereas it's really like two lanes for me. I got the video side of things, which is my media company, and then I got, my music side of things. But the media side of things, there are multiple branches, mm-hmm. right? There's the podcast, there's, videos, there's, there can be multiple branches. But for me, I can totally relate to that, and I think because you didn't go to business school, right? Like that wasn't your thing. So
No.
you're more into business now than you were, before. What was I guess, what piqued your interest? Was it because your father was, a serial entrepreneur and you were like, you know what, I want to kind of learn, business side of things. I kind of want to learn, how things run and the processes of business.
Mm-hmm.
Was it that reason, or did you kind of just was like, when you started the Gifted Gab, you were like, okay, well, when you start something, you start looking at it as a business. Well, a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
They look at it as a business, and you start putting that you start seeing the ladder,
Mm-hmm.
as I would say. Where did that peak of interest for business come from?
I think it came from working with my father. I've never really had a desire to really be in business or anything like that. I was cool with just, having a good paying job and coasting through life, But when my dad wanted to start his business, and I was put into it, me and my brother were just, we weren't put into it. We decided to, to help out with it and stuff like that. And you wanted to learn how to be like efficient at it, So that time apart that I wasn't living with my dad, I was learning a lot from my mom. And then when my dad said he wanted to go into business and stuff, and we decided to say, yeah, let's do it, I'm like, okay, let me make up for this lost time and learn this game from my dad, because this is not my dad's first. It's not my dad's first business.
Mm-hmm.
He's had several businesses, and it's really admirable to see someone continue to try to pursue, freedom from a lifestyle standpoint. And I think business gives you that, when you go into business, whatever it is that you want to do. And I've always been a big reader, so the times that I spent in the store when there wasn't really anything going on, I would just teach myself. I would read business books. I'd listen to a lot of business podcasts and just try to understand the game that I'm playing in now.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, here's a playbook, go read it.
Yeah.
So being hands-on helps, but being in that atmosphere, you got to kind of take the accountability to kind of learn some of the tricks of the trade yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, probably within the first year of the business, while I was still studying, I opted to take courses that taught me about organizations, taught me about how business is structured in society, and the internal things that make a business go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on education, but I don't think education needs to be formal education. I think once you leave school, you can continue to learn, whether it's from people, whether it's from books, whether it's from, videos. So I just try to take that with me and, understand that I don't have all the answers, and took my learning into my own hands. And so that's where, being in the business kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah.
And then I was able to take the stuff from here and apply it to the Gifted Gab as well.
Yeah.
And all the other projects I'm doing. So I began to look at everything from the lens of a business, the structure of hustling and seeing that, investing time, investing money and all this stuff with the idea that it may return down the line. Not that it may, that it will, if you do your research, if you do your due diligence. And so.
Yeah. I relate to that too, man. I think education doesn't have to be formal, like you said. I think the biggest things that I've learned, how I've learned the biggest, in the biggest ways, have been through experience and through my own curiosity of researching and figuring out stuff. Like, I also don't have a business background. I have a science background. A lot of people don't know that. I studied biology in school. I have a biology degree.
Mm-hmm.
The path for me was to be in a job in the medical field, in some way, shape, or form. So I was also in that position of like, okay, what do I do now? And obviously with my passions for video and video production, I was always doing it on the side. It was a side hustle, making cash here and there, but I never saw it as like, okay, this is going to be the thing. But there came a moment in time, probably kind of closer to the end of my degree, where I was like, okay, I got to make a decision. Am I going to go into the medical field and go full on in here, or am I going to, this unknown path of business and video production? I have no idea. So I just told myself a year. I'll give myself a year and figure it out. And if I can't figure it out in a year, and if I'm not making any money in a year, school's always going to be there. Yeah. So as immigrant parents, as you probably know, they don't like that of
they don't, man.
They don't like the whole you work for a year and
they don't.
School is the end all be all, right? So yeah, man. No, that's awesome. I think our paths are kind of similar in that sense, where we're kind of self-driven. And I see that, and I see a lot of that, especially with the Gifted Gab and the side projects that we've been talking about. What's one of like the biggest lessons you've learned going through working with your dad, creating the Gifted Gab, working with a partner, and just working with others in this realm of business? Yeah, of course, a lot of people have the resources, right? They have the YouTube, they have Google, they have books. Like, we all have those resources now, and it's abundant in that sense. But there's sometimes a gap between that, right? There's a gap between the actual theory and then the actual execution of things. And so from I guess up until now, what's one of the biggest things you've learned working with others in the business, but also creating your own projects? Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. To support this channel, go to patreon.com/Cassius to get more videos like this, and on topics such as filmmaking, creativity, and business. Thanks so much for watching.